Good morning. When the elders appeared before the Australian Royal Commission, the judge had to tell them what they were doing was cruel, and he said it twice. In doing that, Watchtower, who claims to represent God, claimed that God is cruel. They had no answer for the judge. Now, they're not the only ones that do this, so God's reputation needs to be upheld. And I would like to start at the beginning. And I was reading Bill Bryson's Short History of Nearly Everything. It's a good book, by the way, very good book. However, he goes on to talk about the need for proteins, that they need DNA. And DNA has little purpose without proteins. So he says, are we to assume then that they arose simultaneously with the purpose of supporting each other? If so, wow. But then he goes on to say maybe it's not as exciting as we think it is, and he quotes Richard Dawkins. Now, Richard Dawkins is an eminent evolutionist, and his idea in life is to try to prove that we don't need a creator. So when he's talking about protein, he says this: perhaps 2 or 3 amino acids linked up for some simple purpose and then, after a time, bumped into some other similar small cluster and in so doing discovered, in inverted commas, some additional improvement. I have never read such rubbish in all my life. So to start at the beginning, we're going to uphold God's reputation as a creator of immense intelligence. And we're going to look at the cell. Here it is, if you can see that. A human cell. And what we want is the nucleus, because in the nucleus we have the DNA. Now, in order to form a protein, here we are. I have a diagram here, and you'll find much better ones online. You have to unravel a portion of the DNA, not all of it, just the bit that describes the protein. And you'll note here, if I can do it, you'll have the RNA joining up, copying the code that the DNA gives you. And then it forms a line of RNA. Then that RNA toddles off to the other part of the cell, which is the blue bit, the light blue bit. What you must remember is that this is all going on inside a living cell. So not only does the protein need DNA, it also needs a living cell, but then it also needs ribosomes. These things here, which exist in the cell. Now, sorry, I can't see what I'm doing. The ribosomes help these little things here, which is tRNA, and they deliver, according to the 3-letter codes in the RNA, the correct amino acid in its right sequence, and it forms a chain. And here I've explained this before, that the protein needs all these amino acids in the right order, and off it goes, and once it's set free, it folds up, and there you've got your protein, without which we can't exist. And then, having looked at how complicated that is, protein needs DNA, but it also needs the ribosomes in a living cell, and a living cell has got to have all the other bits and pieces. So it's complicated. And then you might like to read this little tome, after which you will know how life works, sort of. You won't be able to make it. So all I can say to Richard Dawkins is, please follow the evidence. An extraterrestrial of supreme intelligence has created us. And the odd thing about this is that when you've read this book, it's not the end of the story. A baby, for example, is created, and all it needs basically is food, water, and a few clothes. But it also needs a great deal of love. Now, why is that? Why can't this child develop properly without the loving care of parents who put its interests first? Why is that? Well, it's because God is love, of course. And the human brain is phenomenal, but the human mind goes way, way beyond that. And for it to develop properly, it needs this loving care. It's very, very odd, but interesting at the same time. So on the one hand, you've got Richard Dawkins saying there is no creator and it all happened by accident, which is an enormous insult. It's a bit like telling an artist that the paint just fell on the canvas, that it didn't need the artist. And then on the other hand, you've got Watchtower saying that God is cruel. I have not seen any evidence of God being cruel. I'm looking out the window at birds, at flowers that I don't need, but a loving God has given them to me. The generosity and love of our Creator goes beyond what we can imagine. So Watchtower, stop being cruel, imitate our loving Creator, and let us repair God's reputation if we can. But thank you very much for watching this morning.